Okay, Rich, if you have a second, I'm ready to go through the statement with you. Now, first of all, just I want to let you know, Rich, I don't have any appointments for a while, so if you have any customers that come in or you get the phone rings, you need to answer it, feel free to do that. I just want to let you know I'm in no hurry. First thing that I noticed when I looked at your statement, Rich, is that you're going through First Commonwealth Bank. Now, I want to explain a little bit about how that process works so you understand it a little better. First of all, your bank doesn't actually do any processing. They go through a company called First Data. I can look at the statement and I can tell you right off the bat it's a First Data statement. What they do is, I'm really familiar with First Commonwealth. They have a salesman there named Rick. Is that the guy who you spoke with? Okay, great. Well, let me explain something, what happens here. Rick works for First Data, and he has an agreement with First Commonwealth Bank that they refer their clients to him, and then he gets you involved in their processing program. Now, the only problem with that program that I found in my experience with other clients, they have found that because the bank and First Data and Rick all have their hand in the pie, they want a piece of the pie, basically. You have three people trying to make a profit, and so inevitably your rates are going to be marked up a lot more than they usually would be through a direct sales agent such as myself. Now, I work with North American Bank Card. I'm licensed through North American Bank Card, but I'm an independent agent. I can offer whatever pricing I want, and so I have my own pricing strategy. So, first of all, you don't have three hands in the pie. You just have me, and you have North American Bank Card. So that helps me to be able to lower your price there. The other thing is my basic pricing strategy, Rich, is very different from anything you've seen before. I'm not trying to make it. For instance, Rick is probably, just by looking at your statement, he's probably making $80 to $100 a month off of your account. If you went with me, I would make about $20 a month, maybe a little less, a little more, but I'd make about $20 a month off of your account. And I do that because I have a lot of clients. And so what I do is I offer lower prices, and I get a lot more clients, but I offer them lower prices. I don't offer them, I don't, charge them a whole bunch of money. I try to keep the prices low. I figure that way they won't cancel. They'll stay with me. I give them great service, but I only make somewhere between $10 to $20 on each of my clients, but I have a lot of clients. Does that make sense to you, Rich? Okay, well, let's go through the statement here, and I'll explain it to you a little bit. First of all, you have a monthly service charge of $5 right now. That's the first thing I notice on here. You have a monthly service charge of $5. Our fee is exactly the same there. We charge you $5 as well. Now, you're right now at this time, you're not accepting debit cards where you enter the PIN number. You know where you have the separate PIN pad and people can swipe their debit card and enter a PIN number. Now, if you wanted to do that, that's an additional $5 fee that we have each month, just like your current company would probably have. And you can offer that. Now, with your type of business, Rich, I did notice that you have a large ticket size. In other words, I guess from your maintenance, you do a lot of $200 to $500 orders. Is that right? Okay. Well, one thing you have to keep in mind is when you run a debit transaction, you have a fixed cost of about 55 to 70 cents. That's the total cost to run that transaction. You don't have any percentages. It's just a fixed transaction fee if you actually have them enter their PIN number. If you take a debit card and just run it as a credit card, then you have your transaction fee and you have a percentage that you're charged. Now, if you had a hot dog stand, Rich, I would tell you keep doing exactly what you're doing. Do not accept, have people enter their PIN number because you don't want to pay that fixed cost of like I said, 55 to 70 cents. You don't want to pay that on a $2 order. That would be 40% of the order would go to the credit card processor, and that wouldn't be good. But that's not the case for you. You have a lot of very large orders, and you would actually save some money for yourself if you did this. Or, for instance, you had a $1,000 order. If you pay, say, 2% on that transaction, that order would cost you $20. If somebody enters their PIN number, then it's only going to cost you 55 to 70 cents. So I would recommend that. We'll talk about it a little bit more at the end here, but I just want to mention that to you ahead of time. Right now you're paying $5 a month because you accept credit cards. If you want me to give you a free PIN pad and to be able to have people enter their PIN number, it's an additional $5 a month, and I would recommend that just because of your larger ticket size. The next area I want to show you here, your transaction fee. We charge an 8-cent transaction fee. That's if your terminal is hooked up to a phone line. Now, do you have internet here? Oh, you don't. Okay. If you don't have internet, we would just hook your machine up to a phone line, and you would be charged an 8-cent transaction fee. So every time you run a transaction, it costs you 8 cents. Bottom line, it costs you 8 cents every time that happens. Then, in addition to that, you have your percentages. Now, Rich, here is the area where I differ completely night and day from who you're using right now. and it really will be to your benefit in this area. Now, our statement, when we come down to the bottom, I'll show you right now, if I would have been doing your processing this month, my processing fee total would have been no more than $123.44. So say 125 bucks. That would have been your total investment for all of the processing that you did that month. With the company that you have now, it was $227. So we're talking about saving you about 50%, $100 a month in savings. So I need to explain to you, because otherwise you're looking at me going, you know, that's crazy. But I got to show you how the pricing works. It's very different than what you have now, and I want to explain it to you in detail. Right now you're on what's called 3-tier pricing. 3-tier pricing means all of your transactions, credit card transactions, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, they are all put into one of 3 buckets, and each of those buckets is charged a different rate. For instance, right now, your lowest rate for qualified transactions, you just run a normal credit card, it goes through, it's not a rewards card, you run it on your machine, it's a qualified transaction, that's what they call it. You pay 2.99% for that transaction. If it's a mid-qualified transaction, your mid-qualified rate, which normally, Rich, that's probably, you ever take any orders over the phone where somebody calls you and pays with a credit card over the phone? Okay, I thought you did. I see a few of those here in the mid-qualified. When you see that mid-qualified rate, it's a little higher. The reason for that, Rich, is because Visa and MasterCard know that when you punch in an order on your terminal, you're not swiping the physical card, and you probably don't have a signed receipt. So they charge you a little bit of a higher percentage because they know that it's going to be a higher risk for that transaction. So some transactions range a little bit and they're a little higher. Your mid-qualified rate right now is 3.99%. And you can see that right here on your statement. So for instance, it shows you here your MasterCard sales discount. You had $479 of MasterCard sales. That was what they call a qualified. They ran those at 2.99% for $14.34. Then you have your mid-qualified, and then the third type, you have your non-qualified transactions. Non-qualified right now, you're paying 4.06%. You know what non-qualified is, Rich? You ever see those rewards cards where you get like 2% cash back? Guess who pays that 2%? You do. Yeah, of course, the merchant would, of course, get stuck with that, and I don't agree with that, but that's reality. That's the way it is. So when you take a rewards card, there's nothing you can really do about it. It is what it is, but when you get that rewards card, you're paying right now 4.06%. Now, here's the interesting thing about my pricing, Rich, and this is really the whole difference between me and the competition. I do what's called cost plus pricing. It's totally different. When you look at the statement right here, that 2.99%, you have no idea how much of that was markup, where Rick is making money, First Commonwealth is making money, First Data is making money. You don't know how much money they made. And you don't know how much of that was actual cost. I mean, there is cost involved with Visa and MasterCard and Discover. They each charge fees to the processor. So there are costs and there's markup, but you don't know how much of either one you got. With me, you will know exactly how much is cost and exactly how much is markup. That's one of the benefits. It's clear. When you look on the statement, you can see, okay, this is the markup and this is the cost. Secondly, the other thing is, Visa and MasterCard and Discover, they don't work on free tier. They don't do that. They have 30 or 40 different percentages that they charge depending on the type of transaction. So for instance, in your case, all of your debit cards that you ran as credit, you paid 2.99% for those, but in reality, the cost was only 1% to maybe 1.2%. So you can see on those transactions, and that's the largest amount of business that you do. Rich, you did well over $3,000 of the total processing volume. 3,000 of it, more than 40% of your processing volume was actually debit cards that you ran as credit. And they're marking those up somewhere around 2%. So that's a huge markup. I mark up every single transaction 0.25%. Every transaction. Doesn't matter what it is, I mark it up 0.25%. And I separate the markup on the billing statement from the actual cost. When you look at your statement, you'll see here's some debit cards that ran. The cost was 1% plus 0.25%, and you pay 1.25%. So it's a pretty good deal for you. You save a lot of money on the transactions that are lower. Everything doesn't get just thrown into some general bucket. Everything is split up, and you pay the actual cost plus 0.25%. So, Rich, what does this all boil down to? Well, what it boils down to is this. With us, you'd have paid $123.44. With the competition, you paid $227.02. Now, I also noticed on the first page there was another $300 in fees. Any idea what that was for? There wasn't anything on the statement. I'm guessing that was like an annual fee or something like that. Okay, that was your annual fee and some other PCI compliance. Okay, I understand. We don't have any annual fee. The only fee I have is that $5 monthly fee that I mentioned to you before, Rich. That's the only fee I have besides the cost plus pricing that we mentioned. So you're going to have a $5 statement fee. You're going to have an 8-cent transaction fee. And then you're going to pay cost plus 0.25%. Any questions for me on that, Rich? Is there anything about that you didn't understand? I want to make sure we go through it thoroughly.